This past week of college football was one of the wildest in recent memory. 4 teams with a legitimate shot at making the college football playoff fell in Week 10, and it completely altered the scope of what the top 4 could be moving forward. Welcome into Penn State Sportsnet. I'm JC Colavita, joins alongside Declan Stablow, and tonight we discuss the crazy, backwards, ever-changing world that college football proves to be year after year. Declan, the 2 biggest games of this week were in the SEC. How did they affect the overall scope of what the conference is going to look like moving towards that championship game?
Well, I'll start by talking about the best team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. They've been elite on both sides of the ball all season, and they really stepped it up on defense this Saturday. They posted 6 sacks after only putting up 10 in their first 8 games, and they really put a dent in Hendon Hooker's Heisman hopes. Stetson Bennett, the mailman, delivered 3 touchdowns and left the Volunteers on voicemail. Even without Brock Bowers putting up a major game, they were still able to get what needed to be done on offense in a really impressive performance. Tennessee, on the other hand, their hopes are hurt now. It's hard to see them making the playoffs unless there's an absolute collapse by Georgia. Hendon Hooker did not look his best. It was absolutely his worst performance when they needed him to be stellar. And they only got 2.2 yards a carry on 42 attempts. They had no production on the ground, and it's a big reason why they went 2 for 14 on third downs. They just couldn't sustain a drive to save their lives or their seasons this week.
I agree with you. Georgia is now the undisputed #1 team in the land, and Hendon Hooker, I really think he lost the Heisman in that game. But the other SEC competition was Alabama versus LSU. Alabama has been one of the best team over the last 10 to 15 years in all of college football, but they fell to LSU. Brian Kelly outcoached Nick Saban, which never happens. And I would say this game really didn't have a scapegoat. You know, Bryce Young, he's injured. He didn't have his best game, only completed a little bit above 50% of his passes, did commit the only turnover in the game with the interception. But Brian Kelly he was gutsy. That 2-point conversion at the end of the game, gutsy. And I guess the only thing Alabama could really go off of right now is the silver lining is Jahmyr Gibbs. The kid had over 150 total yards. He's going to be a stud. He should be the first running back off the board in the NFL draft. But the thing with Alabama is for the first time in a while, they do not control their own destiny. And quite frankly, LSU could be the first 2-loss team to ever make the college football playoff. But Declan, there were 2 other huge upsets this week, one of them being Clemson, but one of them also being Illinois. Those teams had an outside shot at the playoff, Clemson being ranked #4 in the first rankings, Illinois having a chance to get to the Big Ten championship game. But talk about that Illinois team. What went wrong for them?
You know, you look at this Illinois team, and they had a real shot to be a true Cinderella story. No one expected them to be this good going in, especially not after an early loss to a really bad Indiana team. But they have the top defense in both yards and points allowed per game. They've been able to hold teams to low scoring totals, and it's been winning them games since then. But they were not able to finish a single series against Michigan State. They had 5 drives that ended in Michigan State territory in which they did not score. Now, this team still has a very legitimate shot to win the Big Ten. Maybe not legitimate, but they'll make it there. And if they do that, that still grants them a potential Rose Bowl berth, which would be huge for the program as a whole. But their playoff hopes died with their missed opportunities on Saturday.
An Illinois loss to Michigan State is not unheard of. It probably happens year in and year out, but this Michigan State team is putrid. Illinois should have taken that lead, especially with Chase Brown. But Clemson, what happened? I mean, come on. DJ Uiagalelei, he's not the guy. But I think everybody, except for Luke Bryan, everybody discounted Notre Dame. There's a reason that they actually played competitively against Ohio State early in the season. They're good. They're flat out good. Their defense came to play. Drew Pine, the quarterback, backup guy, he did not have 100 yards passing on the season. He didn't on the game. He didn't do it. But their running backs, Audric Estime and Logan Diggs, both had 100 yards on the ground. The defense came to play. Notre Dame showed up at their home stadium in South Bend. I mean, what can you say? Clemson, you're done. You can win the ACC all you want. You're done.
Yeah, you know, my big thing is, how do you watch a team just run it down your throat for an entire game and not give the ball to your star running back? I understand that situational football, you're going to throw the ball more when you get down a few scores, but if you are not able to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers, you're not going to be able to overcome a deficit like that.
Absolutely. But Declan, tomorrow, we're filming this on Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, the top 4 rankings, the college football playoff rankings will be released for the second week in a row. Who do you think, who is in your top 4?
Well, number one, I've already mentioned, it's the easiest choice here. It's got to be the Georgia Bulldogs. There's no question about it. But number two is where I have a bit of a shakeup. I've got Michigan over Ohio State. I think they've got a stronger defense, and I trust Jim Harbaugh over Ryan Day when it comes to a game that really matters. And when you look at it, Ohio State and Michigan, they're going to be going into that end-of-season matchup knowing that they might as well be playing for a conference championship game. And you know what? I'm a big believer that defense wins championships, and Michigan has the defense to do it. My fourth spot, I've got Oregon. Since their blowout loss to Georgia in week 1, they have not had a single game where they put up less than 40 points, and Bo Nix has looked outstanding. Nothing like we saw at Auburn, nothing like we've seen week 1. They still have 2 good matchups against Washington and Utah, and then a potential Pac-12 matchup that could very easily earn them a spot in the college football playoffs.
Declan, I would 100% agree with you. Georgia, best team in the land. Done, stamp it, they're good. I think even with a loss in the SEC championship game, they're fine. They're absolutely fine. I have Ohio State above Michigan just because Ohio State, that Notre Dame win looks better and better every week. And Ohio State has faced some adversity. C.J. Stroud did not really play well last week, granted 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And the Penn State game, they pulled away at the end. But Michigan, I just don't like their out-of-conference schedule. It's just not strong enough. I think at the moment that Ohio State is above them, it doesn't really matter at this point just because they're going to play each other in a couple of weeks. And that game has, for the last couple of years, been the de facto Big Ten championship game. But in number 4, give me the TCU Horned Frogs. I love me some Max Duggan. I love Sonny Dykes. What he's done in his first year as head coach is crazy. Yeah, the Big 12 does not always get the respect they deserve, but being undefeated should get you somewhere. They should be number 4, and if they finish undefeated, they should have an easy spot in the college football playoff. With only 3 weeks left in the season, a lot can change at the top of the rankings before conference championship weekend. It's sure to be a real dogfight to the finish. But that's going to do it for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Declan Stablow, I'm JC Colavita. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind the scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.